The reason why I'm highlighting this is because I want the audience to understand the incredible computing that players make at this level. Because typically, when a top player has a thought that spawns inside of their mind to commit to something for an action, whether it be forward, walk back, button, whatever it may be, what follows that thought is typically a second thought, an analysis of the original thought. Should I commit to this? Is this thought process going to help me win, or is this too safe, too risky,
That's
etc., etc.? But
that's something I want to talk about
yes,
before we continue any
yeah,
further. That's something I want to talk about. The minute you start saying, "Oh, is it too safe? Oh, is it not? Is it gonna work?" No. The minute you second guess yourself, that's when you pretty much lost your chance. Um, you know the reason why Mena and Angry Bird are so good
mm,
and like currently,
mm,
it's because they play on instinct. And I believe what I was playing on that day at Evo 2019, it was solely based on instinct. I was not trying to play too much into logic, too much into, okay, is it safe? And it's not safe, so I'm not going to. No. If I had a feeling it's going to work, I would go for it. I would not second guess myself. That's the reason why Mena and Angry Bird are so good, especially in tournament, is because they are heavily instinct based players. They know when to turn off the logic and go based on how they're feeling, right?
exactly, exactly.
So
So
yeah,
the reason why I was saying that was because, like, I wanted to break down the different situations. So in as I was saying before, when you have the original thought, it's followed by a second thought to assess if it's logical or not. And then it usually leads to the commitment. But that is part of the 90% logical in your gameplay. But then there's also a 10% guts in your gameplay that you need to be able to turn on and off. So I completely agree with you when you say that Mena and Angry Bird, they're very instinct based players. Their percentages are probably a bit different because of how confident they are in their decision making and how good they are at the pattern recognition. I'm saying usually from what I grew up with was, oh, you want to have 90% logic to be a solid player, and then the 10% guts in critical moments. And what I'm trying to highlight here is your zero point 0.5 second millisecond thought process. It might even be lower than zero point 0.5. But that thought process was in the perfect position for a gutsy commitment. That's when you had the thought and you can't second think it. That is when you trust your instinct. You had the thought and your guts needed to be put on the table. That's when the 10% guts goes in. And your gut thought process essentially like skips the second thought process. I didn't mean gut thought process, but you get what I'm saying, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah. So
that's just incredible.
yeah, so like sometimes I feel like when I'm playing the best in tournament, I feel like I'm mostly playing on my gut feeling, and other
Mm,
time I feel like I'm losing, I'm trying to play more on the logical side. Like, okay, this wouldn't work here, so I'm not gonna do it. No, this is unsafe, I'm not gonna do it. Take one example. Look at Mena versus Haitani from Evo in 20 plus the last Evo. Look at the comeback he made. He jumped back, he cornered himself, he jumped back, and he was in burnout, so he was within chip kill range, and he did back jump, back fierce, the suppressor, and it beat Haitani's button attempt to chip kill him into level two. Like, there's no logic that you can apply here where it's gonna work.
yeah.
Like jumping back into the corner and doing suppressor, there's no logical thing that that goes into it. There's not
It's
nowhere where you
suicide.
can
It's
think
suicide.
exactly. Yeah, you cornered yourself and then you press a button at the same time. I mean, obviously the button shifts his hurtbox back a bit, but the thought process to think of all of that in literally like 1 or 2 seconds,
Yeah, yeah.
probably even less, and then commit to the level two. I mean, do level two, react to level two afterwards. That's that's what separates Mena and Angry Bird from the rest. It's they throw sometimes when it needed, they throw all the logic out of the window and they trust their gut feeling. And I feel like that's what makes them so dangerous because it makes them very unpredictable and it's very hard to fight them in the first to two or first to three or even in tournaments regardless. And that's what makes them so good in this game because I feel like this game rewards a lot of instinct
Mm-hmm.
based players,
Mm.
and the logical based players are not. They it's kind of hard to apply logic to this game in general because so many things going on. So you have to trust your gut feeling a lot more. And I feel like that's what separates Angry Bird and Mena from the rest of the players.
Would you agree that, I mean, would you agree that uh, it should be around 90% logical thinking when you are playing the game and 10% gut decision when it requires the tense moment, guts on the table type of situation? Or because of Mena and Angry Birds a consistent success, you think that the number is a bit more skewed where it's 70-30? Or because you obviously want to have more logical than you want to have guts. You need to be
Of
able to
course, yeah.
calculate what you are doing. You cannot just, you know, commit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you basically what you have to do is you have to throw the logic out of the window when it's necessary. Like
Yes.
obviously, if you don't need to, like if you have a life lead, there's no need to play on instinct because you have the life lead, you're leading. But when it comes to it, whether you're in burnout, whether you're about to lose, whether you're trying to make a comeback and all of that, that's when you need to start activating your instinct, try to make a read. But I also feel like they do play on instinct more, even on especially on defense, because in defense by logic you should take the throw, right?
Yes.
Or you should try to take the throw, whatever. But sometimes you can see them waking up with jabs when it doesn't make sense, challenging drive rushes, like challenging heavy punch drive rush with the jab or something, pressing after a plus button and all of that. So they do apply their instincts, I feel like a lot more than 10%, but mainly the instinct is applied on defense because I feel like on defense you kind of need your instinct. You can't just play by logic. If you play by logic, that means you're gonna play too safe, and playing too safe in this game makes you a bit easy to read or predict.
Yeah. Very passive is bad.
Yeah, very passive is bad. You gotta be active, but you gotta also be smart when you're active. And I feel like that's where the instinct is applied, because you just go with your gut feel. Okay, is he gonna throw there? Is he gonna extend? Is he gonna try to
Is he going to neutral drive rush me? Should I neutral drive rush him?
exactly, yeah. Should I wake up with a low forward? Like this is basically the best example I can give of instinct feeling. It's when your opponent is expecting a DP and you wake up with low forward
Yes.
into special or drive rush or whatever.
Yes.
That's the best example I can give of instinct. It doesn't make sense at all to do a 7 frame normal on your wake up when your opponent is on top of you. It doesn't make sense, but it works a lot of the time because you think your opponent is going to bait your DP or he's going to walk back to shimmy or whatever. So you go with your gut feeling here and just go for it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it's whatever. I mean, at least you trust in yourself.
Where would you say your percentage is before we move on? If you had to put a percentage scale.
I feel like I'm more on the logical side, and that's not necessarily good because I feel like it does cost me a lot of game. It does make me a lot easier to read, but it's really something that I can't change manually. It's something that comes to me, at a random moment in the tournament, and a tense moment or whatever. I do apply instincts a lot. Like for example, there was one round where I played against Taquito in Red Bull Kumite, and he knocked me down, and that's it. And I was burned out. I had 2 super bars, but I was burned out, and he had all the meter in the world. So he threw me, and then what he did was dash low forward with Ken. And I was like, okay, this is my chance. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it right here. And I woke up with light kick, light punch, level 2, and that killed him.
Wow.
So that's one of the moments where I play based on instinct. Because if Taquito did dash jab, that would have beat me. That would have beat my, what's it called? My button. But he did dash low forward because he thought I was going to walk back.
So then,
what?
I was going to say, so then you would say you're more so 80-20, like 80 logic, 20% instinct?
First of all, what's Mena and AngryBird like? Are they 60-40, 70-30,
I would say
65?
I would say 60-40. I would say 60-40.
Yeah, so if they're 60-40, I would say probably I'm like, let's say 75-25 at the moment.
25-25, yeah. I'm even worse. I'm pretty much 90-10 or maybe even 95-5. But my logical thinking is also skewed as well because I make very bad decisions sometimes. So I need to be able to learn how to make better decisions and learn how to commit better. And we were talking about offense. Me and Amjad were in the previous episode. So he said a lot of good things that made me think about how I can approach the game offensively.